a unit on secular song. Song for voice, one voice, secular, non-sacred. So the Middle Ages, 400 to 1450. We talked prior to this in our chapter on Machaut about minstrels, troubadours, and trouvères, who were musicians, professional musicians that traveled around. Some of them didn't travel right around. They worked at a particular court or for a patron, and they didn't travel. They just would. So that's the difference between a minstrel that might travel and a troubadour would work for somebody that's an aristocrat. Remember that the religious wars, the Crusades, and medieval explorations enabled exchange of musical instruments and theoretical ideas between Europe and Asian cultures. It's an exchange that took place about music. Secular music arose in courts and was performed by aristocratic troubadours and trouvères in France. Or in the case of women, I found out, called troubarites. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And by wandering minstrels in cities. Song texts, the focus was on idealized love and the values of chivalry. Remember, it's a code of behavior involved with being a knight, chivalry. And we still use that word chivalry today. And men, if they follow chivalry, they will treat women in a certain way, even like going up steps and going down steps. That the woman goes in front of you when you go up steps, and when you go down steps, the man is in front of the woman. It's a code of behavior. Songs were sung monophonically, one melody line, and played with improvised instrumental accompaniment. One popular type of dance song was called an estampie. Here's some pictures of medieval musicians. And I think we look at the architecture from this time, and we know that poetry, the writing of music notation was developed at this time, and polyphony beginning in the sacred parts of music in the church. So to think that the musicians didn't provide a level of music that was the same level or standard of doing things as like building cathedrals or the painting that was going on. I think that was musicians were always as good as painters. Too bad they didn't pay attention to the perspective. 13th century manuscript illumination, a French minstrel recites a poem to the Lady Blanche of Castile, wife of King Louis VIII of France. She looks to be in a comfortable position. Musician here. And the poetry, do you think they're singing, the poets, the poem? Probably some of it, right? Recites a poem. I find this odd that if this is her feet, she is one tall woman. Wow. Medieval musicians playing a lute and nakers, both instruments of Arabic origin. Perfect example of knowledge being transferred from one culture to another culture. And on a personal note, I always find it odd how many times guitarists or string instrument players are shown to be left-handed, as this individual. This is the individual's left hand. And most people are not left-handed. So why would you give an example of a left-handed player? Unless I don't know. What is this over here? 3 feet. Oh my gosh. A beautiful example. Look at this. Christian crusaders entering Constantinople after the Second Crusade. Remember, Constantinople is the modern Istanbul on the Bosporus Strait between Turkey and I guess that's Greece, or I actually don't know what country that is. Maybe it's still, anyway. The Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea are connected between the Bosporus Strait. But this is this walled city, and which was very important holdover from the Roman Empire, and finally fell in 1452 or so. And we're going to listen to a piece of music by a troubadour, Rambo de Vaquieras, Armed for Battle. And he's an example of a troubadour that worked for one person. And his patron had gone to the Mideast in a crusade and come back. And so there was an exchange of ideas. And evidently, the composer here, Rimbaud, was in Constantinople and died in battle there with his patron. And he was earlier in life, he was knighted because he saved the life of his patron. This is important to note about the music we're going to hear. It says the medieval manuscripts of Kalenda Maya, which is what we're going to hear in the name of the piece. So the manuscripts provide the poem and the melody and an ambiguous indication of rhythm. Notation had not yet become standardized. In other performances, you may hear the song in duple rather than triple meter, depending on the musician's decision about the best flow for the music. Further, the original notation gives no indication of instrumental accompaniment. What we hear in performance comes from the historical research and creativity of 21st century musicians. And I have heard other performances of this piece, and it's mostly the same. And so the interpretation of the music that exists from this time is evidently pretty clear. Before we listen to the music, I want to remind us that we listened to the Machaut, Ma Fin, the My End is My Beginning, the palindrome. Machaut lived between 1300 and 1377. So this is more than 100 years before that music example we listened to by Machaut. Let's listen to this piece, Kalenda Maya, the 1st of May.
Andria, che gial dello Andria, che carvendria, saggello zia, si aita dosa mans partia, Eudadeios, mais doseria, si gioes estos non tendria, alvia, parvia, già, mais non deria, selvia, moria, non avas filteria. Comerte dura di me, renduda donna, sera son slaiadura, che bruzni dura non è pertuda, ma scaldara, se bruzze dura, non se grans, il nesque gura, e bei semblans, fai par caldura, che nuda tengura, no sai, di nas tengura, paura, cresura, no sai, se sopra Donna grazzina, che classe grida, vostra valore sa del vina, e più s'oblida, paucli valvina, perché osa zor donde servina, che per gen